Thank you very much. I want to thank Olivia and Nick for the invitation to this great conference. I woke up this morning thinking I have 20 minutes, but now I know I have 12. So now I'm going to try to walk you through four different projects at different stages. The first one is with Tom Janssen and Shankara Bulut, and it's already published. The second one with the same authors is being revised for resubmission. The third one is going to be out relatively soon, and the fourth one has been recently circulated with Tiziana Assenza and Alberto Cardacci and Tetiana Tesjakova and Thomas Otter. Okay, who are the others by project? So the first one is looking at neighbors and peers, and asks the question, does the financial literacy of neighbors, of people who live close to us, affect our retirement saving? The second is looking at neighbors as well, and it asks the question, does exposure to local wealth inequality, to greater local wealth inequality at the start of economic life, affect over the longer run our risk-taking and wealth accumulation? The third one is comparing professional financial advisors to advice that would be given by family and peers and our elders. And, it studies how the advice on retirement saving of these two or three types of advisors differs. And the fourth one is how the others can stress us and create cognitive load, and how this cognitive load might affect our behavior. So for the first two projects, we exploit where we look at neighbors. There is the problem that, you tend to choose your neighborhood, and you might be able to influence the circle of neighbors that you're exposed to. So we take advantage of a refugee allocation program in Sweden that took place between 87 and 91, where refugees were actually placed in apartments randomly, and they were destitute, those particular ones who accepted the placements, so they had nowhere else to go. And we are able to observe their neighbors, the certain aspects of their neighbors. And this being Sweden and Scandinavia, we are also able to track them and observe their financial behavior 15 to 25 years later, 10 to 20 years later, when the wealth tax in Sweden was imposed and the data were collected. Now, the financial literacy externalities paper, the key finding there has been that refugees who had at least a high school certificate, so they had a certain level of education, and were placed in areas with higher shares of neighbors with college education in business and economics, were more likely to be participating in private retirement accounts and stock holding 10 to 15 years later, and in stock holding 15 to 20 years later. Now, John Campbell had told me this is the first paper that shows it's a good idea to have economists as neighbors. so I think we should exploit that. But a key point here is that content matters. Content of the education of neighbors matters. So it's not just about having a college degree, but a college degree in education, in business and economics. And also that the level of education of the recipient matters. So people with less than a high school certificate are not shown to benefit from these interactions. Was there social interaction? We don't observe it directly. We vary factors that increase or decrease the likelihood of interaction, and we find that factors that increase the likelihood of interaction are producing bigger effects. Is it pure imitation, that people are just looking at what the economists are holding and they're just copying them? We found evidence or support for the idea that it's not pure imitation. Imitation does, probably does occur, and there are other studies showing it. But we found that even having people with the knowledge around who are not holding stocks themselves contributes to these retirement, the greater retirement probabilities, etc. Now, is this good news or is it bad news? And, in some sense it is good news because it shows a social multiplier in financial literacy, so that you educate some people and then they pass on that knowledge to others as well. But it is bad news in the sense, when it comes to distributional effects of homophily. Now, because we tend to associate with people who are like us in terms of the level of education and the social status, etc., this type of results suggests that people who are already educated and successful are more likely to be benefiting from these externalities than people who are less educated and who don't associate with highly educated people in business and economics. The second project using the same data is motivated by recent research, which finds propagation mechanisms for wealth inequality. So recent, very high-level recent research found that the wealthy people don't only have more to invest, but they also tend to get higher returns on those investments, and that propagates wealth inequality. Now, we are asking in this paper if there is yet an additional propagation mechanism of wealth inequality, that people who are exposed to greater wealth inequality when they are starting their economic life, whether some people tend to become richer, tend to be encouraged by wealth inequality. They view it as an opportunity. They undertake the risky investments and end up with higher levels of wealth later on, whereas others are left behind, are not motivated. Maybe they interpret it as unfairness, maybe they interpret it as a hopeless situation, and they are left behind. Now, our key finding in this paper is that exposure to higher wealth inequality at the start of economic life in an environment of high wealth mobility propagates inequality. And the key split is college education. So if you look at these graphs here at the
I don't think it works.
It doesn't work. Okay. So at the top, what you see at the top are areas of high wealth mobility. What you see on the left is people who are better educated, who have college education. And what you see is that depending on whether they were faced with higher wealth inequality at the beginning or with lower wealth inequality, their average wealth trajectory is different. Whereas for the less educated people, exposure to greater or less wealth inequality at the start of the career does not make a difference. And also in areas of low wealth mobility, which are the bottom graphs, we don't see a similar thing. Of course, this doesn't control for anything, and in the paper we try to understand and econometrically what's going on. Now, you might say, is it a mechanical effect of high wealth mobility that educated people in those areas are somehow railroaded into investing in risky assets and in housing and in self-employment and earning higher wealth? Just because there are more opportunities for them. And actually what we find is we also look at areas where there are higher wealth mobility opportunities for less educated people. And even in those areas, the less educated people do not seem to be responding to this exposure to higher wealth inequality. So more likely relevant, we think, is the ability to earn returns, higher ability of the educated to earn returns, greater optimism that people have found for high socioeconomic status people, as well as social interactions of the more educated with successful neighbors. And it is this last part that we are trying in the revision to really exploit and look more into to be able to make that argument more convincingly. So the policy implication is, we have to think of the less educated and try to think of ways to empower them in their financial behavior. The third project is actually a project on financial advice, but we think it is different from previous exercises because in a number of ways, but maybe the central one is that it compares financial advice given by professionals to financial advice that is given by lay people, lay advisors, what we call lay advisors. Is this true? I have 39 seconds. I have 5. Okay. I have 5 seconds. Okay. So what we do is we present professional and lay advisors with randomly assigned vignettes of investor characteristics, and we elicit their recommendations on the risky portfolio share for retirement saving. Professionals don't face conflict of interest. They stand nothing to gain by giving one or the other advice. The lay advisors are getting €6 to be incentivized. Now, these vignettes importantly avoid issues of who gets to access those professional financial advisors or not, because they are just given by the algorithm. So what we find here is that both advisor types are influenced by their own characteristics. This has been shown for the professional advisors, but also the lay advisors are influenced by their own income, age, risk aversion, and even risk exposure by their own portfolios. They both categories, both types, respond to investor characteristics in ways that are broadly consistent with our theories, although we have no way of assuming that they know these theories. Professionals tend to recommend less risk, but this is fully explained by their differential response to characteristics of people. And here we a little bit of a punchline. What we are able to do is draw graphs like this to look at the heterogeneity of advice that people are likely to get from these two different types, the professional advisors and also the lay advisors that are their peers, that are younger, that are older than them. We are able to conduct such comparisons. And what we find is that, in a nutshell, is that professional advisors, had they been meeting with young, low earners, with low education, younger people, they would be recommending more risk-taking to them than their own peers or their older relatives and friends recommend. Whereas they would be recommending less risky portfolios to wealthy retirees, to the wealthier and older people. So if we could somehow manage to get more of the young people that matched with professional financial advisors, we would be getting a lot more, it seems, stock market participation and saving for retirement. Okay, and the final project in the last minute is an experimental project, an online experiment, where we look at the effect of cognitive load on consumption and saving decisions. This was motivated by the COVID crisis. And the idea is we give people a 20-year life cycle model, if you like, or something that looks like a sequence of 20 decisions or 19 consumption decisions. And in treatment one, or in the control, they don't face cognitive load. They don't face, they face a standard income process with risk. And then in treatment two, we introduce this probability of a 30% drop in income for an unknown period of time. In three, we introduce cognitive load, something that's bothering them, another task. They have to keep track of some numbers that keep appearing and disappearing, and make a proper decision in response to those. And in the fourth treatment, while they're deciding their consumption and saving, and in the fourth treatment, they face both the cognitive load and furlough. And the key result that we are finding is that these people, the difference between facing a furlough or unemployment risk or not is what you might expect from our theories. But actually, the people in either labor market background, the people who are facing cognitive load become more cautious, and they start consuming less, and they start accumulating more, saving more, in response to not being able to think very clearly or to think continuously about the choices that they have. So these are the fourth projects, and I have no more time, and these are the key takeaways. Okay, thank you.